everyone. So I'm going to do a quick tutorial on how I digitize my traditional artwork. First, what you're going to want to do is scan it in. I have an all-in-one scanner, so nothing too fancy. It's like probably 10 years old. One thing you want to make sure, if you have an older scanner or something that's not specifically for scanning in artwork, is to go and download the professional software for it. Typically it will only come with the home and office mode, so you'll need to go and find the additional software for it, because then you'll have more options. So what I do is, for the document type, reflective, source, the table obviously, the exposure I use photo. For the resolution, since I'm going to be making this so that I can reproduce it in prints, I do the resolution at 300 to 1200 depending on how large you want your file. Basically, the higher you go, you're adding more pixels per inch to the document. So I'm just going to leave it at 300 since printers print at 300, and that's good, and I'm not going to make it larger than what it actually is. So this should work out. So then you just hit scan and you will come up with something like this. It is good to keep your scanner bed clean. Here you can see some debris and some smudges, but we can go and remove that using Photoshop. So what I like to do is open it up in Bridge, and it will appear. You will have to go into Bridge and tell it, go find the file within here. I leave all my scans on my desktop so it's easy to find, and then you use this little shutter to open it in Camera Raw, which is an extension of Photoshop. And I make a few adjustments color-wise. So going back to actually the scanner, I don't do any of the adjustments within the scanner itself. I like to do that outside of the scan. So as you can see here, I adjusted the exposure a little bit, upped the contrast to give it more of a dynamic look. I upped the whites quite a bit because I like to get rid of the texture. If you can see before, if we zoom in, you can see the texture of the paper, and that's why I typically paint on hot press paper, because it's smooth. So when I scan in, I don't really even have to worry about this, but I wanted to try some new paper by Winsor & Newton, and I decided to go with the cold press. And cold press gives you that sort of textured look. And then I always up the vibrance quite a bit, because when you print, your print will be darker than what it looks like on your screen, because you're going from RGB to CMYK when it actually gets printed. Excuse me. So from here you can click Open Image when you're done making all the adjustments that you want, and it will open up directly in Photoshop. So then when you're in here, unlock that layer. And what I like to do is build a layer behind it that's a contrasting color, so I'll choose pink for this. And fill it, set it in the back. There are many different ways to do this. This is just the way that I prefer to do it. There's no right or wrong way. There's a million different ways that you can prep your files for printing, and everybody has their preferred way. So I start out with the magic eraser tool, and up here you can check the tolerance. So the lower you go, the lower the tolerance, and then the higher you go, the higher the tolerance. So I usually keep it between 30 and 60. And you can just take out the entire background. And it does a pretty good job. You can do the back and forth. It takes out a little bit extra here, but I think that's okay. We can go kind of clean that up. But if you were to do it at like 5, you can see that it leaves a lot behind. So I'm just going to do 60. And then another way to do it is if you take your magic wand tool, and it has the same sort of tolerance, and you can hold down the shift and click and select all of these little dudes. And then delete them all at once. But I tend to prefer to use the magic eraser tool. Oops. Whoops. And then if you make a mistake like that, just hit Command Z or Control Z, depending if you're on a Mac or a PC. So I think we got rid of all of the white spots. It looks pretty good. And now what I'll do is change this layer to black and see if I missed anything else that's not showing up. So like right here. And then I'll just use the eraser tool. I have my flow at 100% and my opacity at 100%, and then here you can choose your hardness, which I typically keep at 100%, and then your size. The shortcut to adjust your size is Command and then like the bracket button, why isn't this working? Oops. Oh, you just hit the bracket button. The right side makes it go bigger, the left side makes it go smaller. Oops, wrong layer. And if you do an error like that, you just hit history and you can go back. You can even go back to where you first opened the document all the way to the bottom. So you want to make sure you stay on that layer of the artwork. Command plus zooms it in, and then Command minus zooms out. Whoops. So I'm just going to go in here and kind of fix this little wonky area. So yeah, I think it looks pretty good. just kind of going in and fixing these little spots, but since the background is going to be white, it's not going to be that noticeable. But if you were to print this on like a black t-shirt, these would actually show up on the t-shirt, so you'd want to be sure to completely clean those up so your t-shirt doesn't look odd. So I'm just kind of quickly going through and making sure that I didn't miss anything. Okay, I think that looks good. Command 0 will bring your image full screen again. And so then I will change my background layer to white. And we'll fill that in with the, when I fill in the backgrounds, I'm using the paint bucket tool. So we'll go and fill that in. And I think that looks good. So then all you're gonna wanna do is save the image for whatever specs that your printer has. So I'd recommend going to the website of the printer that you choose and actually get their specific requirements for printing. Typically printers print in CMYK, but the printer that I use, they want my artwork in the RGB format, so they probably have their own process that they do. So you just want to double check that because it will alter the color. So if you go up to image mode, you can see RGB and CMYK. So if you change it to CMYK, this will come up, say don't merge, hit OK, and you can see that the color adjusts a little bit. And to do soft proofing, most vendors will have ICC profiles that you can download and make it so that your screen essentially matches their printer, so the color will be exact. ICC profiles basically compensate the color differences between each device from when you scan it to your computer and then to the printer. So I'm just gonna save it as a JPEG image, and I am done. You can also, I leave everything as its original size from when it's scanned in, but you can change it using the canvas size and image size. I typically don't though, because I want it as big as it possibly can be without adding in those extra pixels and making it too large. So I generally don't touch that. So that is it. Hopefully this helped, and if you have any more questions, feel free to ask. I know I get this asked quite a few times, so I thought it'd be easier just to make a video that you guys can see on what my process is. So thanks for watching.